Shrug family, this week on Barbell Shrugged, Dr. Basir Khan, our good friend Dr. Basir is coming in. He is been with us inside Rapid Health Optimization for over 18 months, so over a year and a half now, and a phenomenal human being to understand kind of where he was before joining the program, where he is now, why he found us, or where he found us, why he joined, some of the things that he was kind of curious about once he entered the program, doing this with kind of his best friend and business partner all at the same time. Really the support he's received inside the program. A lot of the experts that we talk about and with on the show here, what it's actually like to be working with them and having an entire team kind of built around him for him to go absolutely smash his goals over the last year and a half, which is very, very cool. So as always, if you love this podcast, if you want to have the same results, come and hang out with us at Rapid Health Optimization. You can do that over at rapidhealthreport.com. That's where you can check out all the lab, lifestyle, performance, analysis, lab testing, stuff that we're doing inside, and how you can start to feel and perform the absolute best you ever have in your entire life. And you can access all of that over at rapidhealthreport.com. Friends, let's get into the show. Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Anders Varner, Doug Larson, Dr. Basir Khan. Welcome to the show, man. Your first podcast, 2025. There's people lined up outside your house right now, waiting for your autograph after you tell your story here. You've been with us for coming up on 2 years now at Rapid Health Optimization, and you and Dr. Perry have been absolutely crushing it. And kind of to kick things off, what I'd love to dig into is just a little bit of where you were 2 years ago when you were looking for some answers, and just what the overall mindset on getting healthy and kind of reaching out was.
Look, man, I've been committed to my health since probably, when I was a kid, I was an active, athlete. I swam competitively in high school. I even rode, varsity, a year in university. And then when I went and did my residency, that just kind of, the one thing I never had when I was a kid was good eating habits. And I packed on a lot of weight, when I finished my training. And, I think probably it was about 2009, 10, I went for some blood work, and it was just kind of like, things were just really not looking good. And I'm like, you know what, I gotta, if I don't take care of myself, no one else is going to do it. So I really, over the last, starting 2010, I dropped a whole bunch of weight, just trying to, eat better, intermittent fasting, and just started trying different programs like P90X and Insanity, and tried to put together my own stuff. Did triathlons for a year, but it was always a hard mix of, okay, what do I do here? What do I do there? Based on my educational background, obviously evidence and science is really important to me. The challenge as a doctor is that we learn how to fix problems. We don't take
Yeah,
people and make them better, right? We're happy with average, right? We're happy with just, okay, this person just kind of meets average.
not
And
sick,
so, what's that?
not sick,
Not sick. Yeah,
not
exactly.
injured.
Not
Yeah,
injured, not broken. If you get a problem, we cut it out, or we give you some medication and we get you back to okay. We don't know how to make people, or we certainly don't learn about how to take people okay and keep them healthy or make them better. It's just unfortunately not what modern science does. And the problem on the internet is everyone's an expert, right? And sifting through trying to figure it out. It's not a question of intelligence. Everyone's smart enough to go out and figure it out. Question is the time, right?
yeah,
So, when Paul, my partner, came to me and said, because we've grown together, not just as friends, not just as business partners, but we've gone through a very sort of parallel path of sort of wanting to be healthy, not just for ourselves, but for our family. I want to be able to run with my grandkids, all that sort of stuff. And look, God's given me a certain amount of wealth that I can invest in myself and in my health. And like none of us are going to live forever, but let's have that quality of life that we can. So when Paul came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I found these guys," because when Paul researches stuff, he really researches stuff. He's like,
yeah.
"Listen, these guys,
I talked to him like 2 weeks ago.
yeah, man, like
Such a great human.
he goes deep." And like when he called me and he's like, "I'm gonna work with these guys," I'm like, hook me up, man.
Yeah.
Let's like the science behind this, the idea that somebody was going to take all of that ecosystem of different things and take me from being hopefully okay to being healthy or healthier and moving in a opposite direction that we naturally go to with age, which is
Mm,
really important to me. And
Yeah.
so,
mm,
I had been working with another trainer for about a year that year. Prior to that, I'd probably gotten as lean as I have in my adult life, and I was feeling really good. Unfortunately, in November of 22, I herniated a disc just lifting snow tires, I think,
mm.
into my SUV. And that kind of set me back, and I was just kind of looking for that motivation again. And then when this popped up, I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. And that was really the impetus of it. It was just the idea of I really want this to be a science-driven, research back
Yeah.
endeavor. And
Hmm.
you guys obviously put that package together in a way that I hadn't seen with anybody else. I'm like, I didn't do any research beyond that. It was that was good enough for me. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One of the things I may have cheated, I may have got some cheat sheet from Dr. Perry. And one of the things that I always think is really cool, I mean, we work with very high achieving people, and you're an eye surgeon. Um, on the cognitive side of things, Dr. Perry said that there's been massive improvements and just the confidence that you have. Um, had you noticed like a decline, lack of kind of trust in yourself, things slowing down in that capacity? Because I would imagine as a surgeon, that is something that has to be top of mind on a daily basis, just making sure that you're able to keep your own tools sharp.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Look, I'd like to think that I function at a pretty high level, both,
Yeah.
physically and cognitively for what I do, and not just with ophthalmology, some of the other interests that I have, and I'm pretty sure I got COVID at the beginning of 23, and
Mm.
it's hard to diagnose these days because the tests or whatever, but symptomatically, I'm pretty sure that's what I had because I rarely get sick, and this
Yeah.
whatever I had
Mm.
really floored me. And, I was just feeling a bit of brain fog and some other stuff, and
Yeah.
even some, again, subtle things because I use my hands, right? Just even a little bit of with dexterity, I think in the summer of 23 started to feel like something ain't right. And, so again, that was something that I'd iterated to the team. And, we sort of, the package or the plan was put together to, I think, address a bit both of sort of cognitive support as well as an anti-inflammatory type of thing. And I think the other thing too, Anders, and just I know I'm jumping a bit over here, like along here, but one of the things or the two things that I really learned with you guys, and I think helped all of this, right? Because up until this point, to me, fitness was diet and exercise and nothing else. Right.
Yeah.
And not to say that those
Mm.
things aren't important. I'm not going to discount the importance of those things. But the two things that you guys really focused on, actually three things I would say outside of that I had never really tuned into was sleep, the importance of sleep, supplementation, and cortisol slash stress management. And I'm sure, and those are things you guys even said to me in the first year, like, Basir, we're not going to prioritize fitness or physical exercise and eating. We
Yeah.
don't want you to not do those things. But those are secondary outcomes right now. We gotta fix a few other things.
Yeah.
And I think those things too obviously had a huge impact in sort of coming back to where I wanted to be on sort of that cognitive
Yeah.
and logical level.
Mm.
Did that catch you by
Wait,
surprise? Kind of. Oh, go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
similar question. Like, were you resistant to that at all? Were you coming in here expecting more diet and fitness things, and then you got something that wasn't exactly that, and you were resistant, or were you like, oh, good, something brand new. I was looking for something new, and I got it.
I don't think it was either one of those, Doug. I'd say what I'd tell you is, look, if I'm going to invest in something, I'm balls in. Like I'm all in. It's like I said to Chris, I said, you're my drill sergeant, and if you say jump, I'm going to say how high. Like if this is what you tell
Mm.
me I need to do, look, I put my faith in you. You guys are the experts. I'm going to do what you tell me to do. I may ask questions. Look, I'll take the analogy of a patient sitting in front of me. Like at the end of the day, I expect patients to ask me a certain number of questions. Hey, okay, doc, you give me three options. Can you explain each of these to me? At the end of that visit, the majority of people say, okay, you've explained all this. I understand. What do you suggest that I do? Tell me what you do. You're the expert. I'm going to do what you tell me to do. And
Hmm.
that's my approach. So that's how I kind of expect people to interact with me when I'm in the seat of being the expert. I'm not putting you guys in the position of being expert. I'm going to afford you the same courtesy and have the same expectation from you guys that you're going to turn around and tell me, hey, man, this is what we need you to do. And trust us, this is what's going to make you better.
Yeah.
Hmm.
On top of kind of like a yearly blood work, you said that those things weren't looking the best. Um, were you doing any other testing, or were there any kind of other mounting, I don't want to say fears, but just kind of like insecurities about where your health was headed?
No, man. I think, look, just based on, I mean, other than annual testing, like blood work and stuff, wasn't really doing anything. I think my family doctor had me doing the stress test once a year just because of my genetic or cultural background. Well, I guess you could say my demographic background, or just more at risk for diabetes and heart disease. So my GP is a little bit more aggressive with me than others might be, but that's about it. I mean, I certainly wasn't doing any of the performance metrics or testing that you guys have had me do.
Mm. But when you were working with your GP, had you expressed to him that you wanted to improve cognitive function if you had brain fog and maybe memory was an issue or just like processing speed or whatever symptoms you were having? Had you discussed that with them and had they tried to help you in that department?
Nah, because the problem is that it's like honestly, again, like we're just talking about such small differences. It's not like I was walking into walls or not able to do my
Yeah,
job. It's just it's
Sure, sure.
because it's the sort of thing where if I had said some of this to somebody, they would have looked at me like, dude, like
yeah,
really? Really? Like you think there's something like I got people with much bigger problems, right? So it's not
Sure.
something, it would be like someone coming into me and say, hey, I saw an extra floater today, and I'd be like rolling my eyes, right? So it's
Yeah, sure.
yeah, no, never had the conversation with my GP on that one.
yeah. I think that's the thing that I love about our clients, though, is they're always it's almost like looking for an edge in every aspect of performance, whether it's at work or they're trying to do it on a field or on a hockey rink. Um, it's it's not just do I pass the kind of like the not sick test, but how do you actually optimize things and try to play the game being your best? Um, has that process can maybe that like mindset as like a philosophy always been around, or is this like how's that kind of developed over the last 2 years?
No, man, I mean, yeah, no, I think this has always been something that's driven me, right? Like I've never been happy with the status quo. I mean, look, there's a fine balance um of trying to be a high achiever, right? Because you don't there's a certain amount of motivation where you need to have to get you to do something, but you can't always if you're not satisfied with where you get, then you're always unhappy, right? Generally speaking, I think I find that balance of, hey, I'm happy with what I've achieved, but let's see if I can get to the next level.
Yeah,
So I think that's always been, yeah, I think that's something that's been innate in me for as long as I can remember. I've always looked to, hey, you know what? I've done a decent job, but what can I do to get a bit better? You
yeah,
know, I've
Mhm.
enjoyed going back to school. I've done a couple of degrees after I finished, my training. I'm always trying to do new things and find a different edge. I think that's just who I am, right?
yeah,
And so I think that narrative or that drive, I think it works really well with what Rapid had to offer or has.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know you said that the diet and exercise part of it, at least initially, wasn't the main focus, but I also know that you lost body fat, you got leaner, your
first
cardiac
thing I
output,
said, he looks
and
jacked.
yeah, I know, yeah, right off camera, the first thing we both say, we're like, oh, all I see are fucking delts and pecs, and this guy's looking lean, looking good. But yeah, I know you got leaner, and your cardiac output and just aerobic capacity increased. Were those active goals of yours, or was that just a byproduct of just good habits, kind of systemically?
No, man. Look, I mean, one of the things we talked about is what I know you guys deal with a lot of professional athletes. They
Mhm.
have specific sort of outcomes, like they want to run faster or lift heavier or whatnot. I mean, my narrative with you guys or my goals and objectives are I just want to be healthier, right? And to me that's overall, whether, it's improving like fitness to me is like four things, right? It's strength, cardio, flexibility, and mobility, right? And balance, pardon me. So it's just, again, those are things that I just wanted broad health sort of goals. And I didn't really focus on anything. I'm not a competitive athlete. I'm not sort of training for anything specifically. I just want to be healthy, right? So I just kind of like, you got write the script, man. Like it's not, I
Hmm.
don't have a goal of I want to squat at 500 pounds. I don't, it's just I just wanted to just make me better.
Yeah.
Hmm.
When you get that initial report and you see kind of the depth of lab analysis, and I feel like when I this is like a long time ago now, but when I initially got mine, and it was like the things you need to work on, it's like cellular health. You're like, what? No one ever told me that. Like that's the thing holding me back. Come on. Or like the deep dive into kind of sleep and how much that affects your life. Were there any big takeaways where you were just like, oh wow, that's nobody's ever told me these things, and how am I supposed to know that those are like constraints holding you back from getting where you want to be?
So the thing that kind of was the biggest curveball when I got that was I didn't know you could analyze someone's poop that much.
Totally.
Uh-huh. Sure.
And like even as a doctor, I mean, look, with the exception of that part, I understood. I had the knowledge or the language to understand virtually everything else that was in there.
Yeah.
Um, but it was interesting. The stool part was really interesting for me for two reasons. Number one was, or three. Number one is the breadth of analysis. I was like, wow, like this isn't like like this is what is this? I didn't know what
Yeah.
half of these things were. Number two was the fact that I had really, growing up, I had some really irritable bowels, right? Like my stomach was really not well. And when I was a kid, I had multiple food allergies. And the fact that it was an area that I scored actually pretty well with. And
Mm.
you guys told me my stool was pretty good. That's not
That
something
that
you
does
hear
not
every
happen
day.
often.
I mean, collecting it also was a bit of a chore, but we won't get graphic on the podcast.
It's a rite of passage. Everybody's got to do it.
I know.
You can't come and hang out with us without crossing
Pooping
the
in a French
crossing
fry
the line.
container.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
You would think it would be something different.
but no, man. Listen, I think the rest of it, like obviously I knew what some of the metrics were that you guys were looking at. Oh, the other thing that did kind of surprise me was I didn't think my sleep was as good as it is. I mean, I've definitely made
Mm.
it better. Like with the Aura, the sleep tracking. I don't know if you guys know this too. I've invested in 8 Sleep as well, so I've had that for the last couple of months. I don't know if
Mm.
Chris.
Cool.
What
Um,
temperature do you start at? Which
I
do you,
started
you
about 15 Celsius. I don't know if
mm,
that's Fahrenheit.
I'm
That's
proud of
so,
you. I use the like one to 10.
oh, I
The
don't.
last thing that I do though is want to get in bed and be cold. Doug's a minus 10. He's psychotic. He's a minus 10 when
Oh,
he gets
oh.
in. He's
So
freezing himself out.
what's the lowest you can go?
Whatever. I don't know what the
So I'm one
Yeah.
from the lowest.
Ah, yeah. Same.
oh, yeah, you
I
guys are
like
both
a
There
nuts.
you
cold
go.
bed. So this is the other thing you guys had me do, and I was like, I told Chris the only thing that I came close to with you guys saying sorry, I'm not doing that was cold plunges.
Yeah,
Mm.
me too.
Like,
I'm
so
with
I'm
you.
like, man, really fine. I said I was going to listen. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So, but amazingly, so here's the thing. I started taking cold showers, like ice cold. And remember, I'm in Canada, dude. So the water that comes out of the ground,
Oh yeah. It's
colder than
not
what you
warm.
guys got. So let's just
Sure.
remember that, okay?
Sure.
So the water, and I know from my watch, okay, I'm getting down to 10 degrees Celsius. So what is that? 10 divided by 2, 18 plus 32. That's 50-degree water. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's pretty cold, right? And
Yeah.
it's running, it's not even stale.
Right
So
at
it's
the
Right.
base of your neck, that's really cold.
yeah, and I don't have anything on here like insulating me, right?
Cosine. I'm with you.
So
Freezes your brain.
so I started taking them in the morning because I thought it would wake me up. But about an hour later, I'm exhausted. So I'm like, you know what?
Hmm.
It isn't working for me. So I tried taking them before night. My HRV shot up. And
Nice.
Hmm.
my resting heart rate dropped. My resting heart rate was pretty good to begin with. It was in the high 40s, but I started hitting low 40s on some of these nights,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
So that's the other thing that and then the flip side of this, I bought a dry sauna that I put in the basement too, in my
Yeah.
little
Hmm.
kid cave, Anders. I mean, it's not separate, it's in the basement, but
Yeah.
my gym keeps expanding. My
There's a
wife,
door.
every time I
Yeah.
bring home another piece of equipment that Chris tells me to get, she's like, "You got something else?"
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the things that I thought were. I mean, I knew generally what you guys were looking at because obviously you've done a good job of sort of breaking that down, and part of that is also what we had to provide before. Um, but yeah, like again, focusing on. I was surprised a little bit when it was kind of like we're not making diet and exercise a priority. Your non-negotiables are again the three: sleep, supplement, and cortisol slash stress management.
Yeah.
And so those are things I'm like, okay, that's what they want me to do. That's what I'm going to do.
The
Yeah.
I'm assuming the stress management side, that was the sauna, the cold plunge. Was there breath work in there that you
Yes,
were implementing?
100%.
Had you
But
been
I think
doing any of that
also, Anders,
before?
it's the mind. No, a little bit, a little bit. But again, it's one of those things, Anders, where you're like, okay, what do I follow? Like everyone thinks they're a breath expert, right? So
Totally.
Hmm.
So I did a bit. I actually use box breathing a lot with my patients, particularly when they're nervous when I'm doing stuff on them. But
Yeah.
um, but again, just even incorporating that even before sleep, trying to find time. I think, Anders, I think the other thing too was learning how to dial it down. Like there's a certain amount of cortisol that I like. I think I like to have a certain amount of stress, but I
Yeah.
think sometimes there's a great book. I actually gave it to Chris. It's called Reversing the Senses. And it just talks a
Hmm.
lot about high achieving people. Part of what drives them is the fear of actually quote unquote being a fraud. Like they almost think that they shouldn't be like they're not
Hmm.
really as skilled or qualified as people may think they are. So it kind of like it's not about narcissism
Hmm.
or whatever. It's just this idea that kind of almost motivate, and that's like you can be motivated out of desire, you can be motivated out of fear, and one's also positive and one's negative. And this is somehow there's an element of both for everybody, right?
Hmm.
But this talks about how a lot of high achieving people are afraid that they're not achieving as much as they need to, and they keep doing more and more and more. This was the first time somebody in my life said, okay, listen, you know what? You actually have to carve out some time to just downregulate. And
Yeah.
that's important for your system. You got to drive that parasympathetic side. We're going to do that through, some of these temperature modulations as well as the breathing. But the moment you're conscious of something, your brain's a really powerful thing, right? So
Yeah.
if just to even be made aware of something in and of itself is a powerful thing. Like I think of knowledge in three buckets, right? There's what you know, what you don't know, and what you don't know. And it's the
I
third
think this guy
bucket
went
that
to a
kills you.
landmark forum, didn't he?
What's that?
That's like one of the sorry, landmark forum. That's like one of their the three things that they talk about all the time. The things you
It's
don't
like
know
a
you don't know.
it's like a famous California style self-help thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can
No,
disregard.
I got that at when I did my MBA from Kellogg. That was like one of the probably the most
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
Maslow's pyramid. That was probably the most important thing that I learned when I did my MBA. And
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
Great.
and so it was like moving the moment you move something out of that third bucket,
Yeah.
you sort of mitigate that risk for some extent because then now you can deal with it. And that was
Right.
probably one of the big things is learning that, hey man, like you gotta this is something, this is a problem. You gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
Mm. You're speaking of potential problems. I know Perry told us that your calcium scores and kind of just your cardiovascular risk overall improved throughout the duration of the program as well. Can you tell us more about that?
So actually, I don't know. So little tweak on that. I'd never
Sure.
had a calcium test before.
Okay.
So I turned 50 last year. So I'm like, okay, I gotta go just, I mean, like, let me just go get a baseline on some of these other things. Because again, being of Southeast Asian descent, people that look like me the majority of us die from heart disease. So I'm like, okay, my dad, I mean, it was in his 70s, but he had a couple of heart attacks. I'm like, look, let me go get checked out. So had a calcium test in October of 24, and yeah, I had a score of 0. And my
Hmm.
GP again, who specialized, like he is Southeast Asian himself and has a lot of Southeast Asian patients. That's part of the reason I went to him.
Hmm.
Uh, was shocked. He's like, man, he goes, I would have thought somebody like based on your demographic, I would have expected something, right?
Hmm.
So that with my VO2 max being in the 90th percentile for my age, I mean, look, it's not, unless you do a CT angiogram of your heart, which I mean, that would be a bit overkill for me at this point.
Hmm.
Um, then, I mean, my cardio metrics are pretty good. I mean, even on my aura, aura says I'm -8 from my age. My cardiovascular age is -8 years. Um,
Hmm.
so
I love that.
even that's improved since I got the Aura because it was when they first. I think they started that last summer, the cardiovascular thing.
Hmm.
I
Yes, a new
started at
metric.
-7, so now about a month ago, and then I went to -7.5, and then about a month ago it hit -8.
Yeah, dude, very cool. Wait, what was your VO2 max again?
I think it was 49.
Okay, yeah, dang, that's
There you
really good.
go.
I don't think I'd
I
hit
love
that
it.
right now. If I'm totally honest with myself, I haven't done my VO2 max, like a real VO2 max in a long time, but
That's
I feel like my cardiovascular shape's not great right now. I feel like I would be in like the mid to low 40s if I'm totally honest with
I'm
myself.
trying to find that. What is the oh, you're crushing me. I'm only 5.5 years younger than my age in cardiovascular age. I need to probably update the app. It'll get me to 9.
Hmm.
The one thing I'd really like to see, like the one metric I'm not happy with so far of all of these, my HRV is still pretty crappy. I just wish
Mm.
I know there's going to be a natural variability in this and some people, whatever. It's the one thing. Now, I track my HRV with 3 different things. I've got a Garmin, I've got my Aura, and I mean, 8 Sleep, although 8 Sleep I think is not as accurate for that. Um,
Interesting.
there's about
Yeah,
a
I
Yeah.
think so.
10, there's a consistent 10-point difference between what my Garmin gets and what the Aura gets. So on the Aura, I'm in the high
Yeah.
20s, and in the Garmin, I'm in the high 30s.
What
But,
are you on the 8 sleep?
Mm.
pardon me?
What are you on your 8 sleep?
It's actually closer to the Garmin, but it seems to vary a bit more.
Yeah. I have found that the Aura, I don't have a third tracking device, but I have found that the Aura and my 8 sleep are like much closer than I would have assumed they would have been.
Okay.
Um, I don't have anything else to compare it to, but
Yeah.
uh, when they when I finally got mine turned on after like 2 years of sleeping on it without it working, and then they started syncing, and I was like, wow, this technology thing is crazy. It's like they really know what they're talking about. Um, but yeah, the VO2 max, you've done that what, 3 times now with us?
Twice.
Twice. I That's one of my favorite tests. That's a really hard number to move. To get to that level and then see improvements when you're already inside kind of the top 10% on that. Um, it's a really tricky one to I trained for an entire year to run a mile and it went up 2 points. I was like, what a waste of time. 2 points. I wish that I wish I could have moved that thing like 5, 6. And there's some genetic freaks that are in the like 60s. And you're like, where did that come from?
You know
So
what's been really good for that for me is, do you know what I do for cardio mostly? Have you
I
ever?
haven't seen the actual training plan, but no, I'd love to
No,
hear it.
I use the Peloton.
Yeah, the
So
Mm.
cycling numbers,
yeah,
Chris was saying, have been fantastic.
so I
Mm.
love it because the metrics on that thing, like I have a third party app that syncs with the bike.
Hmm.
I actually upgraded my bike 2 years ago to and I don't own even any stock of Peloton, so I'm not trying to sell anything. But um, I had the old bike and I moved to the new bike that actually has a digital calibration for the power because I really wanted to
Mm.
get accurate on the power. And so
Mm.
being really able to, although it's not the same as going obviously on a bike outside and you don't have the greenery and the sort of the change and the balance obviously is an important part of cycling that you don't get on a stationary bike. I also don't have to worry about cars. But the metrics and the consistency and the really like zoning in on different powers and try to modulate is so good there. And I really think
Mm.
I attribute my improvement in cardiovascular and just in terms of being able to really hit very specific outputs or targets when I'm on the bike.
Yeah. On the performance side, have you set kind of any bigger goals of um races? Do you do real cycling out on the roads? Not right now in Toronto. Don't do that. It's terrifying.
You know what? Honestly, Anders, I back about in 2013, I was doing some triathlons and I did some Olympic tries as well. I'd really love to get back into that because again, the swimming was fun. Like swimming's my strongest part. Like I was in the
Mhm.
top 10% typically when I swim, and it's like full contact swimming, right? It's actually
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Getting kicked in
I
the
mean, some
head out
people
there by
freak out.
people.
But like I'm like I didn't mind it at all. The cycling I was typically in the top third. Just the running was a bit has always sort of been my Achilles.
Mhm.
Um, I probably have to lean up a little bit before I can really sort of do that a bit. And I'm starting a cutting phase with Chris, so hopefully I'll start shredding a bit. Because I'd really like to get back into that. Because it was interesting, like you see a lot of the guys that are doing tries, like the guys that are really performing well, or unless they're like competing, but I'm just talking about the average Joe Blow sort of armchair athlete are probably my age,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not
Mhm.
playing full contact hockey or basketball in the stop and the go, because that's really, it starts to really wear on your
Yeah.
body, right? But, I mean, this is more endurance training and, with good form, even running can be okay.
Yeah. There's a demographic that you get to, we're all in it, where it's kind of like the speed and power things stop being the goal.
Yeah.
I'm not signing up for any Olympic weightlifting meets anytime soon. It's just not going to happen. But you can go run a 5K, 10K, get in the water, and still be competitive without kind of like the beating on your body that heavy lifting and in general, you're not going to get to a track and like being a sprinting 100s against people.
Yeah.
Um, the one thing I know has been a very call it transformational piece of this or impactful, maybe a better word. I always like to think people show up to Rapid trying to get their labs read, trying to find the answers to what's holding them back from achieving what they want to achieve, and then 2 years later, you're still here. And a lot of that comes down to the coaching relationships. Um, and I always say people show up for the labs and they stay for the relationships. Um, I'd love to kind of dig into a little bit of the like you, Dr. Perry, just kind of many of the pieces that you guys have connected on and how 2 years later you guys are still chatting every week and kicking ass.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would say it's twofold for me, right? It's not just, I mean, yeah, I mean, Chris and I, I know you guys sort of work to try to partner people up in terms of personalities, and certainly, Chris and I have bonded, not just on fitness, but in other things, be it faith or even sort of perspectives of the world and whatnot. We have some deep discussions about that stuff. I mean, and it's not just our weekly calls. Sometimes I'll text him in the middle of the week or different that if I need something, like we built that relationship, and we certainly, I think we certainly enjoy each other's company, but that's only, I mean, and obviously I appreciate and respect and value that relationship, but it's not, that's only part of it though, Anders. I mean, there is the extended family like yourself and Doug and the fit the nutrition and the breathing, because I know at the end of the day, Chris is an expert on certain things, but it's not just him, right? One person can't be an expert at everything,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a whole team behind this, and it goes back, circling back to what I started off with was, like I want to do something that is founded in science. I want to do
Yeah.
something. I don't have the time to go do the research. You guys have done the research. I'm like, okay, I trust these guys. I'm gonna put my faith in them, from the whether it's the vitamins or whatever it is. And plus the other thing too, okay, fine, you do the labs and you do all this stuff, but okay, I want to know, did it make a difference? Right? Like, and you only know if you made a difference if you retest
Yeah.
and you come back and you do it again, right? So otherwise, like what are your endpoints? Like, what are your KPIs? There's definitely I would say it's twofold for me, Anders. It's yeah, the relationship is there, and I'm not discounting that in any way, but it is also just the journey of following all these other things that were important to me from the beginning.
Yeah. Where do you feel like the kind of the biggest levers that you'd like to be pulling to, I know that we kind of guide the journey, but where do you feel like the your interests and improvement currently lie?
I think right now I just want to get shredded, man. I want to be in the cover of Rapid today,
Here
man.
we go. Let's get
So
this man.
because look,
What
I've done the other
what
stuff.
Great Lake is in Toronto? That one. The
I've done
beaches of Lake Erie. Here we go. Did I get that
I've done
right?
the other stuff that you guys wanted me to do, and I mean, I think ostensibly you guys have been pretty happy with the work that I've made on sleep, on nutrition,
Yeah.
or at least on supplementation and the stress management. Not to say that we're going to stop doing those things. We're going to continue to build, like we talked about, right? You achieve a level doesn't mean you don't stop trying to improve. Obviously, moving from 70% to 80% is easier than moving from 80 to 90, right? There's more
Yeah.
work that you have. There's diminishing returns, but that doesn't mean you don't keep trying.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, I just want to look good.
Look, you got your business partner, best friend right next to you, side by side in this journey. There's no bad time to take your shirt off and just flex right on your best friend. It's the best. Look at how jacked
Yeah.
I am. Yes, I got my sleep and my cholesterol looks great. My brain, awesome. Look at these abs. Let's keep this thing surface level.
Yo, does that actually help? Does having Paul around, like, do you get competitive in any way, or is it collaborative? It's kind of fun. You pitch each other shit.
We ironically, we're not actually as I think, honestly, Doug, I would say to you where the relationship with Paul probably comes in more is not when we're competitive. It's when uh, life has ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
And when one of us is a little down, like I've been doing this for a month, and the most frustrating part of the most frustrating part of a cut is you don't lose weight in the first little bit because you're establishing what your baseline is. Then you have to start cutting slowly, right? So it's like for that first month,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not losing weight, dude. What the
Mm-hmm.
hell? Like doing all this stuff, it's not showing up, and it's. I think the relationship with Paul and having Paul is not so much. We're both highly motivated individuals.
Mm-hmm.
It's about when we're feeling down about what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
or like I like if I know, and we're on a podcast. I don't think Paul would mind me sharing this, but like I know he struggled a bit with his sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like I'm like, dude, like it's okay. Like I'm doing a little bit better here. You're doing a little bit better there. It doesn't matter as long as we're moving in that direction. Don't get down about it. Like we're in this. We're gonna do this. We've got a good team behind us. I would say to you, actually, that has been, all jokes aside, that's probably been more substantive about doing this with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Than necessarily, yo, man, yeah, like I think I got one more vein over here.
Well, I mean, Doug and I,
Sure,
that was
sure.
exactly how a lot of this kind of the full business came together. We were just doing it on our own, and kind of magically, we were 3 months into the program and down in Texas at the same time, and we kind of looked at each other. We're like, I feel freaking awesome right now. Like this is the best I've ever felt. And you're doing it
Uh-huh.
together with somebody that you can kind of like share in the experience. Because it's a subtle thing. And then all of a sudden, one day you just kind of wake up. And we were actually down in Florida with a client, a couple just before the holidays, and his wife was saying the same thing. He was like, she went on a bunch of the kind of less specific protocol side of it that her husband was like, just try some of this stuff with me. And she said she was just sitting there at a stoplight one day and she was like, crap, he's right. I feel amazing right now. Like, I didn't want him to be right. I wanted to like say this doesn't work, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like the slow steps that you put together and kind of the stacking of bricks in the right direction all of a sudden adds up one day and you just go, holy crap, this is amazing. It's like when if your sleep is struggling and you start just focusing on it to put those pieces in place, the end result, it may take a little while, but the end result is going to be something in a very positive direction. It may not be 100%, but you will get there, and one day kind of have that aha moment of, oh, all the hard work pays off.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you and Paul are very supportive of each other. That's rad to have someone that close doing the same program, and you guys can lean on each other when you're experiencing kind of the tougher times.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, man, because it's easy to be motivated when you're not, like, all of this comes down to consistency, right?
yeah,
And
Yeah.
it's really easy to be motivated when you're in a good mood, right? It's the most important days are the days that you stick to consistency even when you're not motivated.
Hmm.
yeah. It's like it's why entrepreneurs, I think, are so attracted to what we do here. Like the pro athletes, I think, it it's the same. It's the same brain. You just show up and practice every day, and without kind of focusing on like a specific end goal, it's just how do we just keep getting a little bit better. And if you don't have that, if you're like waiting for that thing, and then you go, "Oh, I'm done," it's not going to work anyways, because there's still so many more layers that you need to get to. But um, that entrepreneurial and then call it athlete mindset, which they're basically the same, of how do we just show up and practice the right things every single day so that one day it just kind of clicks and it all pays off.
Hmm. Yeah, injecting some Layla Hormozi into the podcast here. One of her big things is "fuck your feelings, follow the plan."
Yeah,
It's a great quote. I think about
yeah,
that all the time. If I'm feeling tired, just fuck your feelings, follow the plan, just get after it.
yeah. So, awesome, man. Well, are you on the social medias? Do you want to tell the people where they can follow you, ask any questions, all of those things? Where can or just they need some eye surgery in Toronto?
Yeah, dude, I guess I'm kind of a boomer, right? So I'm just on LinkedIn. Um,
Phenomenal.
yeah, yeah, like Instagram's not yeah, I don't really get
That's
it.
why you seem so happy.
That's right.
I don't really get it. Looking at people's best picture of the day.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I just my biggest social media platform probably is LinkedIn. Just use that for more professional purposes and sort of following news and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not one of those guys that hey, look at me working out at the gym. Um, you
Once you
know,
don't do it, it's very nice not to be on it.
so
Yeah. Well, Doug Larson's on it. Tell the people where they can find you, bud.
I am. With my own happiness in mind, I've been spending less time on social media in general for at least last year now with great results. But I still am on Instagram, Douglas E. Larson. Basir, great having you on the show. I've talked with Chris Perry about you many times. He seems very fulfilled having you as a client. You're making great progress. And I know you're the one putting in all the actual work here, but happy to have had some role in your success of being a healthier person. So appreciate you being here.
no, man, listen, it's nice to be able to have the confidence in a team, people that are motivated, people that it's a vibe, right? Like, and again, having you're not in this alone, right? And
Yeah.
again, it just comes back to consistency, having that motivation. We're all human. We're gonna have good days and bad days, but being able to leverage, look. Every day can't be a good day, right? Otherwise, and,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, if every day is a good day, then you won't appreciate the good days when they happen, right?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
having a team sort of behind you to do this, and because ultimately at the end of the day, this is not just mental physical health; it's also mental health and mental well-being too, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it, man. I'm Anders Varner at Anders Varner, and we are Barbell Shrugged at Barbell_Shrugged. And make sure you get over to rapidhealthreport.com. That is where you can find out all things that Dr. Basir was talking about here: labs, lifestyle, performance. And you can access all of that over at rapidhealthreport.com. Friends, we will see you guys next week.